So we learned about how do we declare arrays, how do we configure the arrays, and after learning about how to declare array, now we need to learn about the array manipulations actually. So we need to understand about interacting with the arrays and working with the arrays. So in JavaScript, we need to learn about array manipulations. Array manipulations. Array manipulations, like generally how we can read array elements and how we can insert, how we can delete, right? How we can sort. So these are the general options. So that means reading, inserting, find, searching, right? Searching. All these are the basic things that you have to know about array manipulations. So while working with arrays, technically manipulating arrays, basic functions and all, we have to learn. In JavaScript based environment, array manipulations are very major, because whatever the data that you handle in real time, all the data will be of type array and array type, array JSONs type and all. First we will understand how array works, then we will see complex things. Actually, we yesterday discussed various methods of declaring and what kind of values we can store in array. Now, reading array elements, how to read the values from array. We can individually we can access. So by using property, or you say index reference. By using a property or index reference, you can individually access. Another, you can use the functions. We can use the functions like toString, like join. So toString and join functions are used to access and use them. We can also use loops and iterations actually. Loops and iterations like for, so for in, so for off, like that. Loops and iterations we can use. So we will see how we can manage them. For example, the first point is how we can read the values individually if we want to read the values. For suppose we have var categories. Categories is an array, and in that we have electronics. So we have footwear, and we have like fashion, something like this. Now we need to read the values and present the values. If I want one by one, you can access by property. That means document.write. I say categories of, I can refer to 1. That means it will access and print the value which is present at one property, that is footwear. Already yesterday we discussed, you can write it like a number, but even if you write as a number, it is string type. It gets that and display. Individually you can access them. Suppose collectively I want to access, then we can use the functions like, so reading we can use the functions like toString, or we can use the function like join. So here categories dot toString. This toString will read all these elements. It will read all those elements, and it will separate them with the commas and print them. And you can see it is reading and separating with comma. So that is done by using toString. You can use the function called join. Join function will read the array elements, but it will present them with a custom delimiter. Custom delimiter means your own separator. Suppose I given here, so suppose a pipe symbol, and you can see that it will present them by using that delimiter. A pipe symbol will come. Suppose I defined some arrow, something like this, and it is going to present with that separator will be used. So toString will present with comma. Join, it will use custom delimiter. We can use our own separators. That is toString and join. Another option we have slice. Slice is used to access based on two different index numbers actually. That means we can access range. Suppose categories dot slice. So start number, from where to start slice. First one is at 0. I want to slice from 1 and up to 2. Here starting index is included, ending index is not included. That means 1 of 1. That means 1 to 1. You say 2, but it will not include 2. It will get only up to 1. That means it will be 2 minus 1. That means it will read only that particular value. So it is going to read only that particular value and present it. You can read multiple. Suppose I said 1, 2, 3. And it will get, and it will print the values 1, 2, 3. It will return them. Slice is going to extract the values which are present between the specific range. That is slice. How we can define slice. So to read values, we can use toString, we can use join, and we can use slice. Next, important, you can also, if you want to read one by one, so you want to read one by one, so then individually one by one, all of them in a sequential order, you can use for loops. We can use a for loop, or we can use a for iterator. We can use for loop or for iterator. So generally, what is difference between loop and iterator is loop requires initialization. Loop requires initialization. Loop requires condition, initialization condition, and loop requires counter. These three things are required for a loop. It requires an initialization, that means from where to start. Condition, it tells where to end. Counter, that means so how many to skip, that is the counter. So how many iterations to skip, how many loops to perform, that is. That is loops actually. Actually, iterator can read in sequential order. So without any initialization, without any condition, and without any counter. So it can read in sequential order without initialization, condition, and counter. So these are the two important options for reading the values from a collection. So we can use loops. Generally, how loops are written. Suppose I want to read all these elements, then how we can use the loop. So we need to define. So for loop contains initialization. That means where to start. So I is equal to start with 0. Okay. Start from 0. And what is the condition? So I less than or I less than categories dot length. Dot length will return how many items are present. Up to the total number of items present, it will read. And I plus plus. This is the counter, means how many counters it needs to continue, how many iterations, incrementation it should have. You can skip 1, 2 also. In looping statements, I will tell you. So, and we have to print document.write. So categories of, so that index reference we are defining here. And we will print BR, line break. So technically, now this is going to read every property. First it will read 0, then 1 and 2. And it will print those details. And you can see that all the details are printed here. This is loop. We can access by using loops. Without loop also, we can access in this way. We can use iterator. Iterators also written with for, but iterator doesn't require initialization, condition, and counter. Iterator is nothing but it reads everything in a sequential order one by one. So actually, we have to declare a variable var item, and we have to use an operator of and categories collection. That means it will read every element of this category and it will store one by one in item. Now we have to print those values. Document.write, I need to print item and plus BR, line break. That means that item is printed. And you can see the same result will be there, no change. Suppose I am adding here at the top, suppose all is the first one. And it is going to print that all also here. So it is going to configure and it is going to add these options here. So this is iterator. Iterator doesn't require any condition. It doesn't require any counter. It doesn't require any initialization. What this iterator will do is it will verify are there any values to read. After verifying, it will start reading the values from one index. It will read and store in that reference. Up to end, it will read and stop. So this is better when you are dealing with the collection. We have two iterators. One iterator is off, another iterator is in. For of, this is to read all values. For in, this is to read all, this is to read all keys. That means it is used to read all properties. All the properties you can access by using in operator. Suppose I am changing this of to in. It will read properties of array. Properties are nothing but properties means 0, 1, 2, 3. The properties will be written. We can read the property, we can read the value. If you want to read both, then you have to write the technique like this. So what you have to do is for, and we are defining some var. So property in collection is categories. Now first document dot write, we are printing. So here property, we are printing property. After that I will put here, so that means properties means 0, 1, 2 are printed. I will put that square brace, in that I will print the property and I will put a colon. I need to print the value. That means now what I can do is, we can pass collection called categories, categories of property, categories of property, categories of property. That means properties 0, 1, 2. That means categories of 0, categories of 1. That means it will get the value. By using this technique, I will put a break. By using this technique, we can read both properties and values. You can see it returns both properties and values. So for that, we have to use in. We need to read every property and print it. That property we will pass into array, so that its value also printed. So that is printing all the details like this, the property and values. So in order to read the elements from an array, you have toString, you have join, you have slice, we have for loops, we can use for iterators. That is good for reading the values. Next, important, filtering values. Filtering values, nothing but I don't want to read all. I want to read only the values that match the given conditions. I don't want to read all. I want to read only the values that match the given condition. Then we can use find, we can use filter. Actually, find is a new option available from ES5 version. That means JavaScript ES5 version, this find is available. And filter is available from the early versions only. It is available, it's not new, it is there from older versions also. What is difference between find and filter is, they are used for searching the value based on any condition and get the value. Difference is, find will return only the first matching value. Filter will return all values. Filter will return all values. Find is going to return only the first found value. I will show you how we can write that find and search. Suppose I have var sales. Sales is having some numbers, 23,000, 45,000, 42,000, 12,000, 34,000, like this. I want to read the sales, so which is less than 40,000. Less than 40,000, three values are there. I want to read the sales less than 40,000. Then generally what we have to do is we have to use sales, that is the array dot find function. Find, here find is expecting a function. So find is expecting a function. That means you have to write a callback function inside it. What this function will do is it will take the first value. That means it is expecting value. This is just the parameter. It will take the first value and store in val. And it should return only when the value is greater, less than or equal to 40,000. That means the find function will use this functionality. It will pass the first sales value. It will verify is the value is less than 40,000 or not. If it is matching, it will return it. After returning, it will stop. That means it will not print 12,000. It will not print 34,000. It will print only the first one. First one, because it is matching. Suppose first one is not matching, fourth one is matching, it will print that fourth one, but only one. Find is used to return only one. That means it is returning one value. We have to store that value. Result is equal to this execute this function. That means it will find your value based on the condition and it will store that in the result. I will print that result. Document.write, I will print the result. Then obviously it has to get only 23,000 because that is the first matching value according to the condition. You can give the conditions greater than, less than here. But it is find command is not returning all. It is returning only one. If you want to return all, then you can use, instead of find, you can write filter. Filter is same like find, but filter will return more than one value. Means it will return all the values that matches the condition. That means the result is not one value, it is multiple values. It is an array now. Result is an array. Then we have to print the array result dot to string. You can see that it is going to present so all the values that matches the condition. It is going to present all the values that matches the condition. So technically find and filter have same syntax, but the difference is find will return the value that matches the condition, first occurrence value that matches the condition, and filter will return all the values. It is filter is returning all the values. There are several ways of writing the filter and find function inside. So this may look little confusion for a learner level initially, but actually you can write like this. Suppose sometimes people have a habit of writing like this also. What they do is first they write a function. So this function name is some search. This function will take a value and it will return the value if it is suppose greater than or equal to 40,000. Fine. Now this function should be used by our find or filter command. Then what we do is we will declare result, and here we will write sales dot filter. Filter is expecting a function We just call the function name search. We just use the function name, not function calling. No need to call the function name. Just write the function name. It will point towards that function and it will use that function. This is not function calling. We call as function pointer actually. We are pointing towards the function so that it will execute. This looks little bit clean. So actually you have to write this function inside this filter. We are separately writing it and we are using it. So it has to print all the products which are greater than 40,000 and print those details. That result must be printed now. That means document.write. We have to print the result dot to string. Whatever result is there, it should be printed. You can see that that result is printed here. Is printed here. So you can write like this. You can write in a more shortcut way by using a concept called lambda expressions. I will not tell that now because for that first you have to learn functions and how they are used. That you will learn after learning these data types. We will learn about functions. There we will discuss about how to write lambda functions and how to use the lambda functions. Working and writing with the lambda functions, we will see that. That is the general approach we need to follow, lambda functions. So technically, so if we know that, then we can write in a more simplified way. As of now, this is okay. Later we can implement that. So this is searching for specific values and returning those values. So for reading, we have to string join slice for loops iterators. For filtering, we have find, we have filter like options, like filtering the data. We have these options. And sorting, for sorting, we have option like sort. We have option like reverse. That means before printing, you can sort, you can reverse so that you can print in a correct way. Suppose I want to filter all the products less than or equal to 40,000. It is printing all less than or equal to 40,000. It is printing, but not in order. Then what we can do is, so before printing this result contains array. That array contains all values. Before printing that array, you can simply use result.sort. That means it will sort the result. After that, it will print. That means now the result will be in an order, 12,000, 23,000, 34,000. After sort, if I directly use reverse is not descending order. Reverse is reverse order. Reverse order of how they are arranged actually. Reverse order of how they are arranged means it will return from back to front. That means right to left it will read. So that means first it will return 34, then 12, then 42 like that. So reverse is not descending order. It will first print 34, after that 12, after that 23. Reverse order means right to left it will print. But if I want descending order, then you can use combination. Then you can use the combination. How we can use the combination is technically, first what you do is you say result.sort. It will display ascending order. After displaying ascending order, then reverse. Then it will display descending order. That means first it will sort and immediately reverse. Then you will see that it is printed in descending order, 34, 23, 12. Values we can arrange and we can display the values. That is sorting the values. These are the basic functions. So by using these functions, we can read the values. We can find the values. We can return the values that are matching with the conditions. Matching with the condition. Now, in our UI development and complete front-end development, because in full stack currently we are dealing with front end. After that you will see a database and server side also. Currently HTML, CSS, Bootstrap, JavaScript, jQuery, these are all front end points. In the front end, majority when you are working, all the interactions in the front end means data. We generally deal with arrays only. Data means array. That's the reason searching the values, filtering the values, this all becomes very important for us. But here the key point is, after reading the values, how you show the values. This is not the way how we show the values. This is just to understand the purpose of those functions. We return this program. Generally, what we have to do is, this is very important. Generally, what we have to do is, suppose we have some categories. We have to read the categories from an array, and we have to present in a drop-down list. We have to present in a drop-down list. So that user can select any item from the drop-down list. We can select any item from the drop-down list. How such type of interactions are handled, that is the key point here. So let's see how we use this in our real world development process. In real world development process, how to use these functions actually. Let's see. Suppose we are designing a doc type HTML head, title, some array demo. In the and here I will add a link. Relation is equal to style sheet, and href is equal to, so node modules, bootstrap dist css, bootstrap.css. Okay, in the body section I am defining so the class as container fluid, and here we are defining a simple div and put a class as form group. Okay, and here we have a label, say select category. Select category. We are defining like this. So important is when you are defining select category, configuring this select category. Below that I want a drop down, and this is the drop down. Now in the drop down, so there are no items. It is empty drop down. So for this I will put a ID as LST categories and class as form control. So form control. Okay, now we have a drop down. You have a drop down here. Select a category, we have drop down. So just for the understanding sake, just for visual designing, I will keep this in a div. Okay, and in the div, I'm just defining this div as a class as box, suppose box. And here we are writing so style and box, so width is some 300 pixels. Okay, just I have adjusted that here. It is like this. Now here, the category, this is empty. So generally, we will not put any data into it directly. Generally, we have to write like this option and all. Why? Because so the data will come from database through server side technology. The data will come to database from the database. A server side technology will read the data and it will send the data to client side. Client side, the data comes, which is consumed by your JavaScript or jQuery client side technologies, client side languages or libraries. So this data should be in such a way that whenever they add one option in database, it should update here. They remove, it should remove. So that means it needs extensibility. It needs to dynamically change. Then we cannot put a standard list. So what we do now here, this is very important. Observe here. Suppose we have to create a script. In the script, so we will write a function. First, we will create an array where categories is an array that contains all, that contains electronics, that contains footwear, and like fashion. Now all these must be added into this drop down. When to add, that you have to tell. Suppose when body loads, I want to add. Then I will write an event for body on load. On load is equal to body load. Okay. Let's write that function here. So function on body load, what to do? Here, first I have to read this drop down list. How to read the drop down list? Where LST categories is equal to document get element by ID LST categories. This is referring to drop down list. Okay. After this, into the drop down list, I need to add all these items one by one. How to read all these items one by one from array? We will use for where item of collection is categories. So categories. It is reading all the options one by one. One by one, it is reading all the options. Okay. Now, item contains all the categories one by one. First item is all. Now this item must be added. This item must be added into this LST categories. But remember, you cannot add any value directly into this select, because select cannot contain directly values. Select contains, it will not contain directly values. It cannot contain directly values. It will contain options. In those options, values will be there. That means now what we have to do is, you know that select contain options, right? We need to create an option dynamically. We have to create an option dynamically. So here we have to create an option. So how to create an option? Where OPT is equal to, by using document dot create element. Create element is a method which is used for creating a new HTML element. Dynamically, you can create HTML elements by using create element method. Which element you want to create? I want to create an option element. Okay. This option element can be accessed by using this OPT. Okay. Now you have to define into that option, we need to put value. So OPT dot value is equal to item. That means that option value is this first one. But you remembered, I told you every option contains how many properties? Every option contains how many properties? Tell me. Every option contains how many properties? In HTML, every option contains how many properties? Are you sure? Two properties, huh? Only two properties every option is having a. Only two properties option is having a. Options are having how many properties? Huh? So you are not verifying what you are learning then, right? Many people are very much excited when we start HTML. Do you know what first question they ask? Sir, when you will start CSS? When I start CSS, they will ask, sir, when you will start JavaScript? When we are learning JavaScript, then next you will ask, sir, when you will start jQuery? That is the question you will have. But you think that you already know HTML. You are very perfect in HTML. And you are ready to take CSS. And 2 days CSS happened. Next day question will come, sir, when CSS will finish? You are so genius people, right? But you don't verify what you are learning every day. You are not reviewing, right? Then it is no use. You may think that I know HTML, but you will fail in all your interviews if you don't review what you are learning. You can't handle. You may feel like you know, but you can't handle interviews with this kind of knowledge. Okay, you have to review everything what you have learned. Otherwise, no use, right? So because everyone is excited, sir, how many days JavaScript? How many days jQuery? Seriously, are you perfect with HTML, CSS till now? What you learned? Then you think of finishing it. Don't think about finishing it without completely having a perfect idea on what you have learned. That is useless learning, right? So very seriously, you have to get perfection on till now what you have learned. So then only you can handle interviews. Huh? So it is a very general thing, and you are unable to tell this also correctly. It's HTML, but you are unable to handle. We learned that every option in HTML comprises of 4 properties. So what are the 4 properties? Disabled, text, selected, and value. Am I right? 4 properties every option will have. What is difference? 4 properties. Every option is having 4 properties. What are the 4 properties? You will have text, you will have value, you will have selected, and disabled. Disabled. Remember? You have 4 properties: text, value, selected, disabled. At least now remember, every option has these 4 properties. What is difference between text and value? What is difference between text and value? What is difference between text and value? Difference between text and value. What is the difference between text and value? Good. Value is for submitting. Text is for displaying. Am I right? Huh? Text is for displaying and value for submitting. Right? Yeah. We are not sending anything on GitHub. We have a Google Classroom. Na? You are not regularly attending our sessions. Huh? We have a Google Classroom ID. Get from our admin. Huh. In that Google Classroom, we are submitting na everything. All the classroom related examples are uploaded there. Na? Okay, fine. So there are 4 properties. We have text, we have value, we have selected, we have disabled. So text value is for submitting. Then what is for displaying? opt.text. Text is equal to same. Same should be displayed, same should be submitted. Because currently we have only one here. Because currently we have only one here. We will submit the same. Okay. So, and we will display the same. So option is ready. We created an option. That option is ready. Option is ready. Now this option should be added into drop down. So it should be added into drop down. So that means the drop down ID is LST categories. That means in the for loop, every option must be added into drop down. So then LST categories dot append child. By using append child, you can add a child element into that parent element. Which child element you want to add? OPT, that is the child element we need to add. That means it will create an option and it will apply value and text and it will add that option into LST categories. That means dynamically we are creating an option for every value present in this array and we are adding that into the drop down. When this will happen? On body load. And observe now carefully. When I run this, you can see all the details are here. So that means we are not having any standard options here. The options are created dynamically and added. What is advantage of this is later I will tell you how to send new values. Currently, suppose if I added here one more category. Suppose I added a category like car accessories. I will save this and I will refresh here. You can see that new option is also added into it. That means if I remove that from the array and it will be removed from there. We can dynamically add through text boxes. We can ask the user, enter a new product ad. How to add, how to remove, those commands are different. I will tell you. Currently, we are reading the values from an array and we are adding into a drop down. You can add anywhere. For example, I want to add, suppose I will create another div. And in this div, I have a class as form group. form group. Here I am creating an ordered list. This is having list item ID as suppose LST. So suppose I said list categories. So list LST navigation. I'll say navigation. LST navigation is the ID for this ordered list. It is the ID for that ordered list. Now what I have to do is I need to add all these as list items into ordered list. We have to add all of them as list items into ordered list. As list items into ordered list. Then what we have to do, loop is same. In the same loop on body load, we created an option. Now similarly, we have to create a list item and add that into ordered list. I will access that ordered list also here, where LST navigation document get element by ID LST navigation. That means we are accessing that ordered list. This is drop down and this is ordered list. Okay, now what we have to do is in the loop we have to write, we have to create a list item where li is equal to document dot create element li. That means we are creating a list item. Okay, now li is a list item. In a list item you want to show anything. Is list item having any value or text like properties? Is list item having any value or text like properties? Is list item having any value? Then how do we show inside a list item? Inside a list item, how to present any value? In a list item, how you present the value? In a list item, in a paragraph, in a div, in a table cell, how you present the value? We can use inner HTML, inner text. Am I right? Huh? We can use inner HTML. We want to present a text, na? We want to present the text, right? That means what we have to do, li. Remember, first point you have to know perfectly is which element you are dealing and how that element can present the data. Understood? If you don't get perfection on that, then you cannot handle it properly. First, you should know which element you are dealing, what properties it is having. Without knowing that properly in HTML, you can't do anything in JavaScript and jQuery. Without proper knowledge of properties of HTML, you can't do anything in JavaScript and jQuery. So you need to be perfect in that. So here, dot inner HTML or inner text. If you want with formats, we use inner HTML. Without formats, inner HTML, I want to print that item. Okay. After this, we need to add this list item into the ordered list. Ordered list ID is LST navigation. Then LST navigation dot append child. So we have to add li into it. Li into it. Li is this variable, right? This variable must be added. That item should be added into ordered list. It must be added into the ordered list, right? It is added into the ordered list. Now you see here. Now you see, it is going to add that into ordered list. That means we are adding into a drop down. and we are adding into an ordered list. So dynamically we have to create, and dynamically we have to add. So later we will learn nested also. Nested means iteration inside iteration. We will learn nested also. That we will see later. Suppose I want to display in a table, then some more complexity will be there. So for example, if I want to display in a div, generally, suppose in a div I want to show, then you can create a div, add that div into the navigations. It's your wish, you can create. To create any element, first you learn what we are learning, the concept. Understood? First, you concentrate only on what we are discussing. How to remove, how to search, that is all not required for your level at this moment. Understood? What to do to remove, what to do anything, that is what we are going to learn. Up to this you are perfect. First, Mr. Shubham Singer, why you are talking about something which is not yet discussed? So don't waste your time in that. First, just follow. You will learn everything whatever required. Understood? Don't get excited without having proper knowledge. You can't properly answer how many properties are present, and you want how to do like YouTube, Facebook. That's like joke, right? You just follow what we are learning currently. You will do everything. You will able to do everything. Understood? You can't tell what are the properties present in options, and you are talking about how to remove, how do we manage. That is what you are going to learn. Don't talk anything other than what we are discussing currently. That will be better for your level of understanding. Okay, right. So we are currently discussing how we read the values. So we will concentrate only on that point. So we haven't learned how to insert, how do we delete the values. That's what I said. We will discuss them later. Currently our concept is reading the values and presenting the values. We are first understanding that, right? You can create any element. To create any element, you have to use document.createElement, and into that element you need to send the value, and we need to add those elements. So anywhere the same process is done. How to manipulate them means inserting, deleting. So all such things we have to do with other functions. Currently we haven't learned any of them. We learned only reading the values. We are learning only reading of values. So this is reading values from an array and presenting in HTML DOM. Previously I showed you document.write, but that's not the concept. In general applications, what we do, we add into a drop down, we add into order list, so that they keep on updated according to the changes happening. So that is first point you need to understand, right? So create element, add that element into it. You can create any element, you can display anywhere. For example, suppose temporarily here I am giving, so another div, I am creating so a class as some form group. Okay, and here I am creating a data list, or I will say here simply table. Okay, And for this table, I have class as table. And I said table dark, table danger, something style. And I just given a T head in the TR, in the TH. Only one heading is there, categories like this. In that we have T body. In the T body, so the ID for T body is T body. I given same ID. You can give anything. Now see here. So we have an empty table. I want all these categories to be added as rows into this table body. Into the table body. Now lot of work we have to do. It's not simple. See, first we have to access this table body. How to access the table body? In the body load, we will declare a variable where T body is equal to document get element by ID T body. Okay. Next, in the loop, what we have to do is we have to create a row. So where row is equal to document dot create element TR. We have to create a row. Okay, good. Now we have to create a cell. That means where cell. So it is document dot create element. What is the element for cell? What is the element for cell? Create element. What is the element for cell? Element for cell is TD. Am I right? TD. Okay. Good. Yeah. The element for cell is TD. Okay. Now what cell should contain? That item name. Cell dot what to use? Is it having a HTML? Inner HTML, inner text we can use now. That means cell dot inner HTML or inner text. Inner HTML is item. That means into the cell that item is added. Now this cell must be added into row. Am I right? Cell must be added into row. Am I right? You created a cell separately. You created a row separately. First cell must be added into row. That means row dot append child. Into row you have to add the cell. Okay. After that row must be added into table body. That means T body dot append child row. Everyone understood this order? First you have to create cell. Add that cell into row. After that add that row into table body. Understood? Right. So now I save this. Now I save this. And you can see it is working fine. They are added into the table. That's how generally we manage. That means I given here as a suppose a table hover like, and you see this is the design. This is table. We are adding into drop down. We are adding into ordered list. We are adding into table. So dynamically they will update whenever any change occurred. So this is reading and presenting the data. Reading and presenting the data. Now here the key point is how we can add, how we can remove items dynamically. How we can manage adding and removing items dynamically from the list. For that we need to learn the array functions for adding elements, for removing elements and presenting them. Right? Dynamically adding, removing elements. So that creates a complex example for us that we'll see in our next session. Right? Tomorrow we'll continue with this. So tomorrow we will finish working with arrays. Then we will create one real world example with whatever we have learned with arrays. Then we can go to the next concept. That means we will learn how to implement this in our real world examples. Right? So tomorrow we will discuss how to add elements into array, how to remove the elements from the array, how to manipulate them. Okay, right.